This is Vivica Williams, and you're watching Head to Head. Today, we want to talk about how Ukraine has progressed or not progressed in the energy sector in 2017. We'll talk about the successes, setbacks, and what we can expect for 2018. Joining us in the studio today is Oleksandr Lisnychenko. He's the director of the Oil and Gas Department with the Ministry of Energy. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you.
So we'd like to talk first about what happened in 2017 in the sphere of energy.
2017 was quite intense and quite full of results year for the Ukrainian energy sector. Unfortunately, Ukrainian energy sector is very big and complex, and it was not reformed for many years during Ukrainian independence, and only recently, after Maidan, the government and second government started to really pay attention and really make strong progress towards reforms. Most of our reforms are based on the European models, and European help is being provided very significantly. And in all the sectors and all industries of energy, for example, electricity industry, oil and gas, etc., we are being mostly driven and helped by Europeans. One of the most significant achievements of the 2017 was the adoption of electricity law. This law is a very significant piece of work. It drives Ukraine. It envisages the development of liberal market. It simplifies and stipulates the rules that were not existing before. For example, import-export of electricity in and out of Ukraine, rules of inclusion of Ukrainian electricity system into the European system of transmission operators. European system unifies 36 countries as a one network of electricity transmission, and it is very important for Ukraine.
So how has this improved Ukraine over the last year?
It hasn't yet improved Ukraine because the full implementation is expected next year, July 2018, and before that the extensive secondary normative acts have to be developed.
So the signing, the development of this was a really big accomplishment of the electricity market.
Besides that, I would like to say that in the oil and gas sector we had quite significant achievements. In gas sector we are continuing. The similar law was adopted in 2015 regarding the reforms in gas sector. Gas is extremely important for Ukraine.
Absolutely.
Ukraine has been always dependent on Russian supplies. It was inefficient, and we were consuming a lot of gas while not being able to produce enough. Ukraine boasts significant reserves of gas, and besides, and several things we have been focusing as a government in this direction. First is trying to stimulate domestic production.
And what kind of legislation has been done? I knew there were issues with PSA agreements and some other issues with legislation that could kind of prevent or retard foreign investment and companies from investing.
Yes, exactly. In order to attract foreign investments, we need to make the industry easy, understandable, transparent, and sustainable, predictable for future years. Currently, investor in Ukraine has to go through 44 permissions, which would take up to 3 years to start drilling from the very beginning. In Alberta, Canada, or United States, it takes up to 3 days. So what we did this year, we focused and did significant progress and achieved fiscal stimulation for this in this sphere. We reduced subsoil fees. We reduced taxation on new oil and gas wells, etc. So we tried to bring down the fiscal burden on the investor.
And what about the issue with legislation? How's that been tackled?
It takes, in order to do this kind of changes, we need to adopt new laws in several directions. We need to adopt new resolutions and change the existing ones. So if we're talking about, for example, one paper, it means that we are doing a lot of document work in different directions.
Right.
Besides that, we are continuing liberalizing the gas market. Currently, Ukrainian gas market can be divided like two sectors. Yes, wholesale market and retail market.
And there's been some issues with vertical, so some division between supply and demand as
well. Exactly. According, Yeah, I'll just finish. Wholesale market is fully liberalized since 2015 when we adopted the law on gas market. Retail market is primarily driven by domestic consumers, and these are sensitive consumers. These people need to be protected. Previously, Ukraine was going the way when the protected consumers were helped and supported by government through special obligations imposed on some of the market players. For example, Naftogaz or distribution companies, etc. So in this respect, we need to go further way along. We need to really, the price in the market has to be transparent. It has to be one. We know if there is a discrepancy in price, there may be arbitrage and abuse.
Absolutely.
This has to be cancelled. But it is a very difficult task. From one side, government needs to protect the sensitive consumers. From the other side, we need to bring the price up to the level of import parity.
And this has been a really big issue, and also the focus of IMF loans. And I do recall that several years ago, probably about 5 years ago, that the price parity was just absolutely abysmal. Consumers were paying maybe 28% of the actual cost.
Exactly.
So what are we seeing now in 2007? Have we seen some improvements in this?
The talks with IMF are still going on. As a ministry, we are responsible for advising and giving the way and algorithm how we see it should be done. And we have made our proposals to the cabinet, and the cabinet of ministers is now is up to them to decide which way we will go. But as the part of government and as just a person, the Ukrainian citizen, I believe the better way to be is a smooth transition.
Absolutely.
You don't. From one side, we have to do it. From the other side, people need to have support from the government. So what we suggested is that. There is also another way of compensating for the gas price, not decreasing the gas price, but do the monetary compensation. And this is also a huge block of work for the fiscal authorities of Ukrainian government.
Could you tell us a bit more about this type of compensation you're discussing?
It would be the idea is that currently the households are receiving gas at a lower lower tariffs, lower prices. But the idea would be that everyone would receive the same price, but the sensitive households, sensitive consumers will get support via monetary compensation. It will be directed.
So this would be the subsidies.
Yes,
right.
The system already exists, but it's a complex one, and it needs to be first monetized, second be simplified significantly. But again, we are talking about tens of billions of Ukrainian hryvnia, millions of people being in the register of of this kind of target list of people. So the government needs time for that. Besides that, in our proposal, we propose that from until the gas period, which is winter period, intense period, is over, we are proposing certain steps towards that. So the discussions are going on. We are fully coordinating our efforts with the European community, with the European Commission, and we are trying to balance. The government has a difficult task, but we are moving forward. We already proved that we are ready to do significant and important decisions and really push the reform forward. So besides that, I would like also touch. There are two more important things. We always discuss that Ukraine is important transit country.
Right.
Ukrainian transit is of significant importance to Europe, and we are always discussing the security of gas supply through Ukraine. This is the most important one of the issues for us. And in this respect, we also closely cooperating with the Europeans. And one of the important things that were done in 2017 is the Stockholm Arbitrage decision. It is very positive. First part of the arbitrage decision was already announced. We are expecting for the final conclusion in February 2018. But what we are discussing here is that Ukrainian will not be paying the draconian
penalties to Russia.
Yes,
this was
exactly.
This was a great success for Ukraine to win this court case that had been going on for quite a while.
Exactly. So, and another important issue is that the restructuring of Naftogaz. Naftogaz is a very important company. Absolutely. It is very big. It is one of the biggest, if not the biggest, tax-paying company in Ukraine. And But according to the third energy package, according to the European legislature, European rules, as you rightfully said, the functions need to be separated. Production needs to be separated from the transit and transmission, from the gas supply, etc. It is a very difficult task. We need to not to destroy the existing system and not to destroy the idea is not to destroy Naftogaz or destroy the tax-paying and value-adding company. Do it smoothly, appropriately according to European rules, establish new transport system operator, continue and allow to continue working for the Naftogaz in existing in those the remains the structure that will remain, and focus on production as well, because the production of domestic gas is also important. The government adopted a concept called 2020. By 2020, we believe Ukraine can be self-sufficient in the domestic production. By 2020, we believe the domestic consumption will reach 27 billion cubic meters of natural gas, and we can produce 20 billion cubic meters, can produce state company Ukrgazvodobuvanje and 7 private companies. So 27 will equal 27 by 2020. By 2020, we can, after 2020, we can even start thinking about exporting gas to Ukraine, become exporting country.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, well, this unfortunately is our time for the moment, but we'd love to talk more about what we can expect in 2018. And I think you've already talked a bit about what is under development and some ideas of what we should look forward to seeing in 2018.
Yeah, again, big plans have already been initiated and started. 2018 will be
this implementation
phase. Yeah, hard work of the state bureaucracy machine and the experts, and together with the market participants, etc. From my experience, what I see, the Cabinet of Ministers leadership, they have been fully focused, and most of the working groups are being headed by Vice Prime Ministers personally. They understand the problems of the industry. They try to understand down to the very bottom level, and it is all the working groups and meetings are very detailed. Action plans are very specific, timelines, who is responsible, etc. So 2018 will be really an implementation, more of an implementation year for Ukraine.
So we're going to have to wait and see and have a lot of hopes. Thank you so much for being with us today and sharing this insight.
Thank you very much.
Today we spoke with Oleksandr Lisnychenko, Director of the Oil and Gas Department with the Ministry of Energy. Thank you for watching.